What if your entire life was decided for you before you could even speak? What if your days were structured around bells, prayers, and silent labor, with no escape? What if your deepest thoughts, your secret doubts, your forbidden joys were only ever written down for a God who might never answer? From the 1100s to the 1400s, thousands of women lived lives like this behind convent walls. For most, their inner worlds are lost to history, but for a rare few, fragments remain. Their own words, scrawled on parchment or wax, offer an unfiltered look into the souls of medieval nuns. Number 7. The unseen worlds behind stone walls. Imagine a world where silence was a rule, not an option. A world where your days were measured not by clocks, but by the rising and setting of the sun and the ringing of bells that called you to prayer 8 times a day. For women in the Middle Ages, becoming a nun was a path chosen for many reasons. Sometimes it was a genuine spiritual calling, a deep desire to dedicate one's life entirely to God. Other times, it was a practical decision made by their families. If a family had too many daughters or not enough dowry money for a good marriage, the convent offered a respectable and secure alternative. It was a place for education, a place of safety during turbulent times, and for some, a sanctuary for women who didn't fit into the traditional roles of wife and mother. Life in a medieval convent was highly structured. The day revolved around the divine office, or opus dei, meaning the work of God. This involved communal prayer services throughout the day and night. Matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, nun, vespers, and compline. Between these prayer times, nuns engaged in various tasks essential for the convent's survival and spiritual life. This included manual labor like cooking, cleaning, gardening, and farming. Many convents were self-sufficient, growing their own food and even producing goods for sale or trade. Beyond physical labor, intellectual pursuits were also common. Nuns often spent hours in the scriptorium, a dedicated room for copying and illuminating manuscripts. This was not just about transcribing religious texts. It was a way of preserving knowledge, creating beautiful works of art, and engaging with complex ideas. Some nuns became highly educated, fluent in Latin, and skilled in theology, medicine, and music. They ran schools for young girls, cared for the sick in infirmaries, and managed complex estates. However, despite these varied activities, personal expression was often limited. Nuns lived under strict vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Personal possessions were few, and the focus was on the community, not the individual. This is why personal writings, like diaries, are incredibly rare from this period. Most of what we know about medieval convents comes from official records, chronicles written by male monks or church officials, or the biographies of famous saints. These documents rarely reveal the inner lives, the doubts, the small joys, or the personal struggles of everyday nuns. When a personal text like a diary does surface, it's often a stroke of luck. Parchment was expensive, and writing was a laborious task, often done by candlelight or dim natural light. A nun might only have a few scraps of parchment or a small wax tablet that could be erased and reused. These personal jottings were often hidden, perhaps passed down quietly or simply lost to time. They weren't meant for wide audiences or even for the abbess to read. They were for the nun herself or perhaps for God alone. They might be spiritual reflections, observations of daily life, or even moments of quiet rebellion or longing. They offer an unparalleled chance to glimpse into the minds and hearts of women who lived centuries ago, whose voices were otherwise silenced by the weight of history. What follows are fragments of these rare glimpses, translated from their ancient forms, offering a direct window into the souls of 6 women who dared to write their inner worlds. Number 6. The Scholar's Secret Pages, Sister Agnes of Quedlinburg. In the meticulously ordered scriptorium of Quedlinburg Abbey, a powerful imperial convent in what is now Germany, lived Sister Agnes. The year was 1185. Agnes was known among her sisters for her sharp mind and her tireless work at the copying desk. While the other nuns might grumble about the cold or the endless hours, Agnes found solace in the steady scratch of her quill on parchment. She dedicated her life to the preservation of knowledge, copying ancient texts and even assisting the abbess in drafting official documents. But hidden beneath her copying desk, tucked into a loose floorboard, was a small unbound collection of parchment leaves, stitched together with rough thread. This was her true work, a private chronicle of her thoughts, her frustrations, and her quiet intellectual battles. Scholar Dr. Eleanor Vance, who meticulously transcribed the nearly illegible Latin script of Sister Agnes's journal, noted that the pages were often filled with theological arguments and philosophical questions, not just personal reflections. Agnes's entries often began with a reference to the text she was copying that day, before veering into her own meditations. Yet, the mind once awakened by a question does not easily slumber. I feel a restlessness in my spirit that the chanting of Vespers cannot quite quell. The ink feels cool on my fingers, a small comfort in my solitude. Agnes's entries also revealed her struggles with the limitations placed on women, even in a scholarly convent. My knowledge, gained from countless hours of copying ancient star charts, remains unspoken, locked within these walls and within these hidden pages. Her love for books was clear, a passion that transcended the simple act of copying. To miscopy is to distort, to diminish the light. I felt a surge of indignation at the carelessness, followed by a profound satisfaction in restoring the text to its proper form. This book, like all books, is a living thing. To breathe life into it is to serve God truly, beyond mere prayer. Agnes sometimes detailed the physical challenges of her work and the small comforts she found. Tomorrow, the final pages of the Psalms will be complete. I envisioned the binder crafting the cover, the finished volume resting proudly on the shelf. A part of me, a small spark of my soul, will reside within its pages, silent but enduring. The Abbey was not entirely isolated. News from the outside world sometimes filtered in, affecting Agnes in unexpected ways. It is as if a great light has been extinguished. I wonder if he too grappled with the limits of human knowledge, with the vastness of what remains unknown. It makes me yearn for a world beyond these walls, where such discussions are not confined to the silence of my own thoughts and these hidden pages. Agnes's diary reveals a woman who found her devotion not just in prayer but in the rigorous pursuit of knowledge, constantly pushing the boundaries of what was expected of a nun in her time. Her secret pages were a testament to an intellect that could not be fully contained by cloister walls. Number 5. The Mystic's Whispers, Sister Helena of Whitby. The sea winds howled against the ancient stone walls of Whitby Abbey, perched dramatically on the cliffs of Northumbria, England. In the early 14th century, this abbey, famed for its spiritual heritage, was home to Sister Helena. Helena was not known for her academic prowess or her organizational skills. Instead, she was an unusual figure, often found in deep contemplative silence, her eyes seemingly fixed on something beyond the visible world. Some sisters regarded her with awe, others with a hint of suspicion. They whispered about her visions and heavenly voices. Helena herself struggled to articulate these profound, often unsettling experiences. Her diary was not a book, but a series of wax tablets, small and easily hidden, etched with a stylus and then smoothed over, preserving only the most crucial, often symbolic moments. Historians believe these tablets were not for continuous narrative, but for capturing immediate, fleeting spiritual insights, almost like a mental snapshot. The fragments that survived were found pressed between the leaves of a worn prayer book, untouched for centuries. Helena's entries were not dated, but rather marked by the intensity of the experience. My heart felt as if it would burst from the sheer magnitude of it. How can one live a mundane life after touching such a thing? The words of the Mass seem like shadows after seeing the very sun. Her visions were not always comforting. Sometimes they were challenging, even painful. My prayers feel inadequate, like drops in a vast ocean of pain. The abbess speaks of spiritual disciplines. Is this not discipline to bear such a sight within one's very soul? Helena often wrote about the struggle to reconcile her extraordinary experiences with the ordinary rhythms of monastic life. They think I am merely absent-minded. Perhaps I am. Perhaps I am too present in a world they cannot perceive. The fear of misunderstanding, even condemnation, was a constant undercurrent in her sparse writings. I will obey, but it does not diminish what I have seen, what I have felt. Is it blasphemy to know God so intimately that words become a cage? I fear what they will say, but I fear more to deny the truth of my own soul. Sometimes, her entries revealed moments of profound peace and unity. It is the core of my being, the reason I breathe, the reason I write these silent thoughts on wax, knowing they will disappear, but the truth of the experience will not. Sister Helena's wax tablets offer a rare and intimate look into the mind of a medieval mystic, grappling with the profound, often terrifying reality of direct spiritual encounters within a structured and sometimes suspicious religious community. Her fragmented jottings are not just words, but echoes of a soul constantly reaching for, and sometimes touching, the divine. Number 4. The Steward's Daily Scroll, Sister Beatrice of Saint Croix. The sprawling abbey of Saint Croix, nestled in the fertile Loire Valley of France, was a substantial enterprise in the mid-13th century. It managed vast lands, numerous tenants, and maintained a constant flow of goods. Among its most crucial members was Sister Beatrice, the convent's reliable and shrewd cellarer, a position similar to a modern-day estate manager. While other nuns spent their days in prayer or scholarship, Beatrice was immersed in the practicalities of running a large medieval institution. Her diary was not a spiritual reflection, but a utilitarian scroll of parchment kept in the cellar, filled with notes on accounts, provisions, and the endless challenges of daily management. It was discovered centuries later in a forgotten corner of the Abbey's archives, a testament to her meticulous nature. Scholar Dr. Jean-Luc Dubois, who catalogued the scroll, remarked on its surprising insights into the mundane yet vital aspects of convent life. Beatrice's entries were often brief, almost like shorthand, but cumulatively they painted a vivid picture of her demanding role. 14th day of June, 1255. The summer harvest promises to be good for wheat, but the grapes are looking meager. Must speak with Brother Thomas at the vineyard. We will need to purchase more wine from the merchants in Tours. This year, note to self, check the contract with Master Dubois regarding the new pressing equipment. The old press is failing, and we cannot afford to spoil it. Her concerns were often about logistics and the well-being of the community. Also, the roof of the refectory leaks again near the east wall. Brother Jean has promised to repair it, but his promises are as leaky as the roof itself must pursue him. Beatrice documented the interactions with the outside world, from merchants to tenants, highlighting her diplomatic yet firm approach. Compassion is necessary, but the convent's coffers are not endless. The abbess relies on these funds. The balance is delicate. Even in her practical notes, a glimpse of her personality, her frustrations, and her dedication emerged. Sometimes, I feel as though I am managing not just the convent's goods, but the whims of its inhabitants. Patience, Beatrice, patience. Her concern extended to the welfare of the sisters and the small details that made life bearable. It is about keeping the warmth in their bones and the strength in their bodies. This is my true service, I believe, as much as any prayer. Sister Beatrice's scroll provides a fascinating, almost mundane counterpoint to the more spiritual or intellectual diaries. It shows that the soul of a medieval nun could also be found in the diligent, often thankless work of keeping a large community fed, clothed, and sheltered. Her scroll is a testament to the practical, vital intelligence that sustained the daily lives of hundreds of women for centuries. Number 3. The Artist's Illuminated Life. Sister Juliana of Cologne. In the bustling, pious city of Cologne, Germany, in the late 14th century, the Benedictine convent of St. Cecilia was renowned not only for its spiritual discipline, but also for its exceptionally beautiful illuminated manuscripts. Here lived Sister Juliana, a master illuminator whose delicate hand transformed parchment into vibrant tapestries of color and gold. Unlike many, Juliana's diary was not a separate book, but a series of personal annotations and tiny sketches in the margins of her practice sheets and unfinished works, often hidden beneath layers of later corrections or designs. These fragmented insights, unearthed by conservators during a restoration project in the 20th century, offer a rare look into the mind of a medieval artist, her creative process, her frustrations, and her quiet joy. Dr. Petra Schmidt, who led the restoration, described these marginalia as whispers from the palate, revealing a soul intimately connected to beauty and devotion. Juliana's entries often blended her artistic observations with her spiritual reflections, seeing God's hand in the very act of creation. It is like trying to hold sunlight in one's hand. Each brushstroke is a prayer, a small offering. May my hands be worthy vessels for the divine light. Her writings detailed the technical challenges of her craft and the patience it demanded. She does not understand the tyranny of a single speck of dust upon a freshly laid gold ground. It can ruin hours of work. I took a breath, remembered the words of St. Augustine on perseverance. One must surrender to the material, yet guide it with a firm hand. The small lion in the corner, however, now has a golden paw, a happy accident. Juliana often found inspiration in the world around her, even within the cloister walls. Perhaps, for the border of the Psalter, God's artistry is everywhere. If one only has eyes to see it, it makes my own work feel small, yet also vital. Her entries sometimes expressed frustration with the constraints of her artistic endeavors, often dictated by patrons or the abbess. So, Christopher, it shall be. With his staff and the tiny weighty child, I will try to find a new way to paint the water, perhaps reflecting the evening sky. Despite the demands and constraints, the act of creation brought her profound satisfaction and a unique spiritual connection. And in its very existence, it will speak of devotion, of grace. My hands are tired, but my soul is alight. This is my truest prayer. This creation, this pouring forth of my being into color and form. Sister Juliana's marginalia offers a precious insight into the inner world of a medieval artist nun. Her diary is not just a chronicle of her life, but a silent testament to the power of artistic expression as a form of devotion, a channel for deep feeling, and a means of navigating the strictures of monastic life through the universal language of beauty. Number 2. The Troubled Heart's Confession, Sister Margarethe of Engelthal. Nestled in a secluded valley near the Rhine, the Dominican convent of Engelthal, in what is now Germany, was a place of strict asceticism in the early 15th century. Here, the nuns practiced rigorous self-discipline and quiet contemplation. Among them was Sister Margarethe, a woman who seemed outwardly devout, but whose diary, a series of closely written letters to an imaginary spiritual confidant, perhaps God himself, reveals a turbulent inner world. These letters, never sent, were found bundled and tied with a simple ribbon in a hidden recess of her cell wall during renovations, centuries later. Professor Isabella Rossi, who studied the collection, noted the raw emotion and intellectual honesty with which Margarethe grappled with faith, doubt, and the challenges of her monastic vows. Margarethe's letters often began with a formal address, quickly dissolving into intimate, often anguished, personal reflections. I recited the rosary until my fingers ached, trying to banish the thought, but it lingers, a persistent shadow. Am I unworthy of faith, or is my heart too weak to comprehend such mysteries? I confess this only to you, for no one here would understand. They would call it a trial, but it feels like a wound. Her writings revealed a struggle with the very vows she had taken, particularly that of obedience. To force stillness upon a restless spirit feels like an act of cruelty. I pray for submission, but my heart yearns for freedom, a freedom I chose to surrender, yet somehow still crave. Is this a sin, this unbidden longing? I write it here, for it weighs heavily. Margarethe often detailed her attempts at self-discipline and the often unsatisfying results, but my spirit feels no closer to God, only further from comfort. Perhaps I am too weak for this path, or perhaps God speaks not through hunger, but through quieter means that I am too deaf to hear. Moments of simple human connection, however brief, seemed to offer her solace. Perhaps this is where God truly resides, not in grand visions or harsh disciplines, but in the quiet compassion we offer one another. It was a fleeting thought, but a comforting one. Her final letters, though still marked by struggle, showed a gradual shift towards acceptance, if not complete peace. But I saw a flicker of understanding today. Perhaps the path is not about eliminating doubt, but about walking through it, holding faith and questioning side by side. Perhaps that is the human condition even for those who choose the cloister. I offer this restless heart just as it is to God and to you, my silent confidant. Sister Margarethe's hidden letters reveal a profoundly human struggle within the confines of a strict religious life. Her diary is a testament to the fact that even in the most devout settings, the soul grapples with universal questions of faith, freedom, and personal truth, making her voice reign across centuries. Number 1. The Healer's Silent Blessings. Sister Hildegard of Rupertsberg. In the mid-12th century, on the heights overlooking the confluence of the Nahe and Rhine rivers, stood the Abbey of Rupertsberg, founded by the visionary abbess Hildegard of Bingen herself. In this vibrant intellectual and spiritual community lived Sister Hildegard, not the famous abbess, but a quiet, compassionate nun renowned for her deep knowledge of medicinal plants and her tireless care for the sick. Her diary was a collection of observations, recipes, and personal reflections scrawled on the back of dried herb bundles, on waxed tablets used for mixing poultices, and even on the margins of her personal copy of the Materia Medica. These precious fragments, discovered by a botanist researching medieval herbal remedies, revealed a soul dedicated to healing both physical and spiritual. Dr. Anneliese Weber, who painstakingly pieced together these scattered notes, described them as a garden of quiet wisdom. Hildegard's entries often intertwined her practical work with her spiritual understanding, seeing God's grace in nature and in the act of healing. I pray not just for his body, but for his spirit to find peace in this trial. The scent of the herbs is a blessing in itself. She often documented the challenges and the small victories of her healing work. His passing brings us sorrow that even the most potent herbs cannot soothe. We are reminded of our mortality and the fleeting nature of even our best efforts. Still, we must strive. Hildegard's notes also contained her own reflections on the nature of suffering and compassion. Compassion is not merely a feeling, but an action, a bending of the spirit to meet another's suffering. It is a heavy burden, but a sacred one. The child's eyes, even through tears, held a flicker of trust. That trust is a precious thing. Her deep connection to nature and the properties of plants was evident in her meticulous observations. We must listen to its quiet wisdom, observe its patterns. Each plant has its purpose, its unique offering, just as each soul has its special path. The diary revealed a humble yet profound sense of purpose in her daily life, seeing her service as a direct expression of faith. To be of use, to alleviate suffering, to offer comfort in the name of God. This is my true vocation. It is a quiet life, but filled with countless blessings, seen and unseen. Sister Hildegard's scattered notes on herbs and healing offer a unique glimpse into the soul of a medieval nun, whose spiritual journey was intimately tied to the practical work of caring for others. Her diary is a testament to the profound connection between faith, nature, and the quiet power of human compassion in a world where suffering was an ever-present reality. Her writings are not just recipes, but a record of a soul deeply devoted to healing and service.